This is Jocko Podcast number 126 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
And tonight also joining us is Mr. David Burke. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening.
On September 27th, 1950, approximately 60 American prisoners who had been confined in prison were taken into the prison yard in groups of 14 with their hands wired together. These men were forced to sit hunched in hastily dug ditches and then were shot by North Korean troops at point-blank range with American M1 rifles using armor-piercing ammunition. Of the two seriously wounded survivors, only one lived to recount the gruesome details. Unnumbered civilians estimated at between 5,000 and 7,000, as well as soldiers of the Republic of Korea, were also slaughtered between September 23rd and September 27th, 1950. Sergeant Kerry H. Wynell, formerly with the 23rd Infantry Regiment, 2nd Division, Korea, was the sole survivor of the infamous Taejon Massacre. And he testified at a congressional hearing. And I'm going to read some of that transcript. Here's Sergeant Wynell. Toward the last, they was in a hurry to leave Taejon, to evacuate Taejon, so they took approximately the last three groups pretty close together. I witnessed the group right in front of me shot. After they was shot, we was taken to the ditch and sat down in the ditch and shot. And then Senator Potter asks, "What happened to you when you were shot?" And Sergeant Wynell replies, "I leaned over against the next man pretending I was done for. In firing, they hit my hand." Senator Potter, "How were you? Sitting in the ditch?" Sergeant Wynell, "They was aiming at my head. I have a scar on my neck, one on my collarbone, and another in my hand. They hit me 3 times. And you played dead?" "Yes, sir." After they thought everyone was dead, they started burying us. I came pretty close to getting panicky about that time, but somehow or another, I figured as long as I had some breath, there was hope. In other words, you were buried alive? That is right, sir. I might add, in that whole group that I was with, there was not a man that begged for mercy, and there was not a man that cracked under the ordeal. Sergeant, how long were you buried alive? That is hard to say, sir. As I say, I was shot around 5 o'clock in the morning, and I stayed in the ditch until that evening, until what time it was dark. I would say approximately 8 hours, 7 or 8 hours. Now that is from a report on Korean War atrocities written by the Subcommittee on Korean War Investigations. And I want to repeat one line again from Sergeant Wynell. He says, "In that whole group that I was with, there was not a man that begged for mercy, and there was not a man that cracked under the ordeal." So think about that. Think about the will and the discipline of those men to be facing certain death at the hands of a murderous enemy, but to face death with solemn silence and show no signs of breaking. And I've said before that war brings out the worst in people, but it also brings out the best. And that is but one of thousands upon thousands of examples of the dedication of our military fighting men.